Hey, vinyl community, welcome to another very special episode. I have Logan here with me from Swellheads Network, and we are here to give our top 10 Sophistipop albums from, I believe, mostly the 80s. Now, Sophistipop is a term that I only recently became familiar with, and actually, Logan, you were the one who kind of introduced me to the term after we were talking after our last episode. So, can you give us just kind of a little brief description of what constitutes Sophistipop?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having me once again. So Sophistipop is kind of one of these micro genres that is almost like a subgenre of a subgenre of a subgenre. You can get very particular with it, but it's essentially a particular brand of synth pop music that is music videos with guys in suits, instrumentals that are maybe a bit jazz flavored, maybe sort of has like a highbrow type of element to it. It's at its core, it's pop music. Like the Brits, like I'm sure if anybody watches James Griffith's channel, I'm sure he would just call it pop music, British pop is essentially what this is. But it's it falls a little bit in the new wave category. It falls a little bit into, the new romantic category. So it's just kind of remnants of all these things. But when Jeff, you entered my number one fan contest, you were talking about a couple bands who I believe you may mention, so I won't ruin that, but that kind of fall into this category. And we kind of realized as we were thinking of a third video topic, that we actually share a love of a lot of this type of music. And even when we talked about this, I was struggling. I was like, I know there's a term for this, but I can't recall it, but I think we should do this because it's one of my favorite styles of 80s music. And so Sophistipop, it just embodies the sort of, like I said, almost highbrow, but not like looking down on people type of pop music, but it's like, it's smart pop music, I think is where that comes from.
Yeah, no, and there were, some of those bands that I had mentioned on your episode were bands that I really didn't have any kind of classification for. They weren't strictly synth pop. They weren't strictly new romantic. They weren't strictly post-punk. I mean, they kind of, overlapped a number of different genres. And I've come to kind of understand it almost like a highbrow, new wave, synth pop version of yacht rock a little bit. Yeah, some bands people used to laugh at, like, Breathe, ha ha ha, or Johnny Hates Jazz, ha ha ha. But actually, just like a lot of yacht rock bands have kind of come and found like some discovery of some of those bands that people just used to kind of dismiss. Now I think the same with Sophistipop. If you go on Spotify, as a matter of fact, I believe you can find quite a few Sophistipop playlists. If you're interested in kind of exploring more beyond what we're presenting here in this video. But surprised to find I actually love the hell out of Sophistipop, and I had a lot more of it than I actually thought I did. But I'm glad there is that genre because it is some of my favorite music from the 1980s, which you'll see as we unveil our top 10 lists. But we're going to start with our honorable mentions. So Josh, Logan, give us this is the problem. I cannot keep names straight in my head. So Logan,
you're good. It's Sunday.
Give us your 5 honorable mentions to kick things off.
Yeah, I'll say up the top, this was out of the 3 that we've done. This was actually the hardest list for me to narrow down because I own so many records of this style and I love so many records of the style. So my 5 honorable mentions, I wanted to shout out records that I don't actually own. I've either used to own them or I would love to own them for the first time. But number 5, The Lilac Time and Love for All. If anyone's not familiar, this is Stephen Duffy post Duran Duran, his kind of next big band, and they have some really, really beautiful music. And the And Love for All record I enjoy quite a bit. Next honorable mention, Aztec Camera, High Land, Hard Rain. Most people, I'm sure, are familiar with the song Oblivious. This is an amazing record. If Aztec Camera was a band today, they would be indie rock darlings. It's all one guy. It's all this kind of, very focused, just expansive type of music. Kind of falls in like that game theory lane of just like really impressive pop songwriting dudes. My next honorable mention is The Beautiful South with Welcome to the Beautiful South. This is Paul Keaton, post House Martins, and Jackie Abbott, I believe is her name. Just a real knack for pop songwriting on that record. Scritti Politti, Cupid and Psych 85. I think this is a record that people would probably poke fun at a lot when we're talking about people's kind of perception of this style of new wave. And the name is silly. Perfect Way is kind of this weird bouncy song, but that record is really good. It has some real dark atmospheric moments on it that kind of come out of nowhere. It's a really, I almost equate it to Modern English After the Snow. Like everyone just writes off I Melt With You as this pop track, but the rest of that record is a very intense listen. They're a straight up post-punk band. And the Scritti Politti record is amazing. And my number one honorable mention of most regrettable sells out of my 80s collection is Spandau Ballet with True. Or Gold. I'm sorry, Gold is the name of the record. True is obviously the single. But Spandau Ballet's Gold, like what an amazing record. And they have a lot of great records. I mean, Parade is awesome as well. And yeah, I see Parade a lot, but ever since I've sold Spandau Ballet's Gold, I've never been able to get it back in my collection. And when I had this sort of Sophistipop renaissance over the last couple of years, I was really bummed I couldn't get my hands on it again. But that is just a incredible record, and I think one that defines this genre quite a bit. So those are my 5 honorable mentions.
All right, now Logan, you got a Tubes t-shirt. Are you consider the Tubes Sophistipop, or is that just a?
I wanted to go as close as I could get with my t-shirt collection. It's not like this genre is really rich in merchandise, but I think she's a beauty. It falls under the Sophistipop tag. Obviously, they're kind of a more straight power pop band at times, a new wave band at times. Like that is a band that is the pure embodiment of new wave. That's like guitars and keyboards, the crossover. So they certainly dabble. They have their ballad singles for sure, but I would not pigeonhole them to Sophistipop. They do a lot of things.
Okay. Well, I'm going to go through my 5 here. My first one, you had alluded to this band in one of your honorable mentions, but I'm going to go with the House Martins, London 004. I think that's a great debut album. They weren't around very long. They only had 2, I think, studio albums proper and then a compilation. And actually, some people don't realize that Fatboy Slim was actually Norman Cook in the House Martins. So that's kind of where he got his start. But if you like the Smiths, I think you'll really appreciate the House Martins. They're kind of a more soulful, kind of Motown, a little bit sounding kind of version of the Smiths, but definitely an album worth checking out. And I really got into that heavily in college. Next one is going to be Style Council, My Ever-Changing Moods. I love that album. I think there's some really great moments. And it's such a shift from what Paul Weller was doing with the Jam. He just decided, well, I want to go in a more sophisticated kind of direction. So he formed the Style Council and got heavily into kind of some soul and R&B flavored stuff. And that's a great album. They had, I forget how many albums they had, like 4 or 5, I think it was, but I still think their first one is their best. My third one is going to be the Joe Boxers.
I literally just bought that record.
Okay.
Where the shit is it? Oh my God. Yeah, I just heard this for the first time. This is a great record, man.
Yeah, I have, for some reason, I didn't grab any of my honorable mention records. So I'm just going off the, list that I have here. But yeah, Gangbusters is, it's interesting because in one song, they sound like The Clash. And then the next minute they sound like a little bit moodier. And the big hit off of there was Just Got Lucky, which has got very much kind of like a Stax Motown flavor to it, which defines a lot of Sophistipop, some of the British bands. But it's catchy, even though on the cover they're trying to affect very much Dexy's Midnight Runners fashion.
Yeah.
Ability, which I never understood. I don't know if that's a British thing or.
Yeah, I was expecting like a super twangy record. I was expecting like Del Fuego's type of thing, you know. And there's a little bit of that, but yeah, it does kind of go for that real soulful type of thing.
Right. My next one, my I guess number 2, if you want to call it, is Haircut 100, Pelican West, which is a great album. I was just re-listening to that again today, and that is a super catchy, just a fun record to listen to. And you know, Haircut 100, I think they only had like 2 albums. Nick Hayward left after the first. Either left or he was kicked out. I'm not sure the full story on that one. But anyway, their best known album was their debut, Pelican West, which, you know, had Love Plus One, which is probably their best known track, but also had a couple of British singles on there. So it's a great album. And then my last one, going to be English Beat, Special Beat Service, their first album. So many great tracks off of that one. I love the English Beat. I love that whole early 80s ska. I love the Specials, and, you know, the English Beat were very much a part of that. And then they kind of splintered into General Public, and then Fun Boy 3. I think they were, or no, they didn't. That was a special. I don't know. I'm getting all of my... whatever it was. Anyway, I'll just stick to talking about English Beat, and that I won't piss anybody off. But yeah, I really like the English Beat, Special Beat Service. And those are my honorable mentions.
I think you brought up a really good point. One thing I didn't mention off the top is yeah, this is very much like blue-eyed soul music at times, and it really the 80s version of that subset as well. Yeah, oh my god, there's just yeah, so many things. I love Style Council. I didn't put him on this list. I very well could have. Nick Hayward from Haircut 100, his first solo record, I could have easily put in this. I just didn't. Very difficult.
Yeah, so many offshoots of it too. You know, bands broke up and then they formed separate bands, or their, you know, best known member, their singer-songwriter, went off onto had a solo career. But just what a great time. And I know you weren't around, I don't think, for the early 80s boom of MTV, but a lot of this stuff found its way onto MTV, really cool radio station back in the day. You would hear this stuff all over the radio. You know, and some people consider it like one-hit wonders, but really it's only because, you know, I think if we were over in the UK, I think
absolutely
shelf life than what they had over here in the States. Over in the UK, none of these bands were one-hit wonders, I don't believe. But over here, we kind of only associate maybe one, like Joe Boxers, you know, we only associate the one song, or Haircut 100, we only associate that one single. But
yeah,
they did have more hits over in the UK. But anyway, Logan, if you want to get into your number 10.
Yeah, and with that said, man, I mean, a lot of these records are really cheap to find. So I don't know if I have a lot of dollar bin videos. I don't know if I did Sophistipop yet. If I didn't, I certainly am planning on it. But I mean, yeah, because America is kind of one-hit wonders for these bands, these are very gettable albums for the most part. So I urge anyone to check them out. Okay, my number 10 is the Blow Monkeys. I always fuck up the name of this record. She Was Only a Grocer's Daughter. I know most people would probably go Animal Kingdom, and I do like that record a lot. This one just takes the edge for me just a little bit. It Doesn't Have to Be This Way is such an iconic song of this genre, an amazing opening track. We have Some Kind of Wonderful on here. How Long Can a Bad Thing Last? You know, Dr. Robert is just like, again, he's a guy that I think really embodies this genre quite a bit, and Blow Monkeys have done a couple records within the last decade, and they're not half bad. A lot of these artists have actually kind of come out of the woodwork in the last 10 years and have put out records, and they really know their sound. It's clear they've owned their craft, 30, 40 years on, however long it may be. And yeah, any Blow Monkeys you can find is great, but like I said, I like this one just a little bit more than Animal Kingdom, which has the super big Blow Monkeys hit "Digging Your Scene." But this one is going to take it for me at number 10.
Yeah, that's a band I definitely have to get more into, and if I ever see any of their records in the wild going forward, I'm definitely going to pick those up, because I like what I've heard from them, and I think people would be surprised, like Blow Monkeys, what the heck is
Yeah.
give them a shot, listen to it, whatever streaming service you use, check them out. If you like the other bands that we're talking about here, you will definitely like the Blow Monkeys. For some reason, I have a feeling like my picks are going to be a lot more mainstream than probably yours are. I think you've got a greater depth of knowledge in a lot of genres, perhaps, than I do. But I
know we'll match on, I'm going to say 2. I think we'll match at the very least, maybe 3.
Okay, well, we'll see how closely we match up. But my number 10 is going to be a band called The, and it is, I don't know, I think it might be their 3rd album, Infected. I love the hell out of this. It is such a leap from Soul Mining, which was, I think, their 2nd record. And really, it's just Matt Johnson. It's not technically, it's sort of like Nine Inch Nails is really Trent Reznor. I mean, The is essentially
Sure.
Johnson, but this is a fantastic album. It's soulful. It rocks hard in places, but it's very much got a new wave sensibility about it. But it's also, I consider it very Sophistipop. You've got some soulful backing vocals. There is some Blue-Eyed Soul on here, which you don't really find on Soul Mining, which had a couple of, hits that found their way onto like college radio, This Is the Day, and I forget the other one.
Uncertain Smile.
Yeah, Uncertain Smile was the other one on here. I don't know that there were any hits really off here. You might have heard Angels of Deception, maybe Slow Train to Dawn, but Out of the Blue, Into the Fire is a great track. I love the last song on here. Is a little bit of an extended. It's over 7 minutes long. It's called The Mercy Beat. It's really, I love it a lot. It's sort of pointed the way to where Matt Johnson would go in his next album, when he actually hired Johnny Marr from the Smiths to join but this is a great track. And not a lot of people know like who the heck the is, but he's a very political, I mean, he doesn't sing a whole lot. He's got some love songs, but he's also got some very topical subjects and themes that he covers on here. But yeah, it's heavy in spots. In some ways, it's got some synth pop elements, but in other ways, it's a little closer, in some spots, kind of the Midnight Oil, maybe a little bit. I don't know. He's kind of all over the place a little bit, but this one had to grow on me a little bit because I love Soul Mining so much and the poppiness of it. And then this one, like, wow, it's really different, but I've come to regard this as my favorite, the album.
Yeah, and that's, we've talked about this before. That is one of my all-time favorite bands, and they do not make an appearance on this list, but it's because they hold such a high echelon in my, in my oeuvre for music, that it's like I can't pigeonhole them to just one genre, kind of like you were saying. They just like, they embody so many things for me. It's like I can't just whittle them down, but amazing band for sure. I think they're starting to get a little bit more their due, but yeah, not enough.
Right.
Okay, my number 9. This is actually something I discovered only within the last couple years, I think. But this is a band, not a guy. But my number 9 pick is a band called Danny Wilson, and the name of the record is Meet Danny Wilson. The big hit off of this is Mary's Prayer, and when I first heard that song, I want to say I listened to it 3 times a day for about a month straight. I really, really fell in love with that song. The music video is also ridiculous. It's very dated, but this is a really beautiful record. I don't know if it's really advertised as a concept record, but it is conceptual. It's very theatrical. I think I forgot how they come up with the name Danny Wilson, but it's either like a character on the record or it's like an old movie character or something like that. But there's definitely elements of theater and like if Turner Classic Movies was an album, it's probably this. Like as far as they're kind of like high brownness, really looking for that great cult status type of thing. This is just a really, really phenomenal record, and again, one I think that really embodies this genre. I don't know if they did too much after this. Gary Clark is sort of the main guy behind this. I think he ended up going on to do some solo things, but I think the band Danny Wilson maybe only exists on this record, maybe one more after this, kind of a one and done deal. But yeah, a really, really like, it's one of those records that blows me away so much I'm almost afraid to listen to it too often because it just knocks me on my ass. And it's only my number 9, so just consider that.
All right, very cool. Well, I'm going to be adding all of your picks to my Spotify playlist that I just made up for this genre, because
there you go.
I need to get deeper into some of these bands. So my number 9, and I was like, oh, do I pick this or do I pick Roxy Music Avalon? I ended up going with this one, Brian Ferry. I think it's pronounced Beta Noire. I don't know. I don't know. I didn't even know what language it is, but it's awesome. I love this album. It's got Limbo and Kiss and Tell on it. It's really, you could mistake it for a Roxy Music album, just because essentially, Brian Ferry was the voice and the face of Roxy Music anyway. But if you like Avalon, you'll definitely like this. I enjoyed this. I gave this another listen today, and I forgot how great this one is. Brian Ferry, he's got that smooth, soulful. He was one of the new romantic singers, kind of like David Bowie a little bit. He was sort of I don't want to say poor man's David Bowie, but definitely got a lot less recognition than David Bowie is. But he's got that silky smooth voice, and you've got some different sound textures. It's not synth pop in any way. It's just, I don't know how I would describe it other than if you like late period Roxy Music, Flesh and Blood, Avalon, you will definitely like his work here. If you like this, the album before this, Boys and Girls, which had Don't Stop the Dance on it, you'll definitely enjoy this. It's just got some different rhythms to it, and yeah, it's laid back, and yet I love all the sound elements that he incorporates into his songs. It just, I don't know, it's sort of like, like I said earlier, it's kind of like an 80s version of yacht rock, but a much cooler version of yacht rock.
Absolutely. Roxy Music is one of those bands that, like, man, I love it while it's on, but for whatever reason, it never like sticks with me. So I've been trying periodically to get more into it. I think I'm noticing I really like the more like David Bowie inspired early stuff. But I'm not knocking anything after that. It's a knowledge gap for me.
Right.
Okay, my number 8. This is another maybe really highly specific pick, but this is the band Any Trouble, and this is a self-titled album, 1983 on EMI. So Any Trouble started off as a pretty straightforward power pop band. They were signed to Stiff Records. So if you like anything from the Stiff world, Ian Dury, Nick Lowe, Elvis Costello, the first 2 Any Trouble records fit very nicely in that world of just, kind of that almost, pub rock as it was at one point deemed British music. But the next 2 records, this and the album that followed, they go way Sophistipop. They go way just like, a songwriter writing really fantastic songs. Clive Gregson is the main brain behind this band. And the song Touch and Go is the hit off of this. It is just an incredible, super simple ballad. It's very stripped back, and it is very powerful at that. But yeah, just another great kind of, he's got a very he's got a very very kind of husky, soulful voice. It's incredibly strong, and this is a band that definitely does not get enough love, and you can find the records very, very cheaply, of which they only have 4, 2 on Stiff, 2 on EMI, and this is my favorite. If you like power pop, the one before this, Wheels in Motion, is also really, really good, but just for straight 80s pop, the self-titled is the one to check.
Yeah, and you mentioned it before. Yeah, you can find all these albums. Like if you go into any record store for under $5, just because most people don't know who the hell bands are.
Yeah.
And they don't realize what they're missing. But I can tell you, this is definitely one I've even seen in the dollar bins because it just doesn't get the respect. But it was one of your honorable mentions. So I am happy to put this actually in my top 10. Scritti Politti, Cupid and Psyche 85. I have kept this album in the darkest shadows of my record collection fear of being made fun of, but I love the heck out of this album. And most people, like you say, know it for Perfect Way. It was a video on MTV. Definitely has some synth pop part, but also, I mean, the opening track, The Word Girl, is like a kind of a reggae, I wouldn't call it ska, but it's just kind of got a, Caribbean, rhythm to it. It's kind of bouncy, playful lyric. Every damn song on here is an earworm. And
absolutely.
Definitely, if you like your 80s new wave, your synth pop stuff, you will like this album a lot. But it's still like one of my, why is this track called Would Bees? But it's all singing about each night I go to, every like I pray like Aretha Franklin, they're name dropping Aretha Franklin in the synth pop song, it's so cool. And I don't know. This is one of my guilty pleasure albums, and I don't pull this record out a lot because people would think, I mean, they already think I'm full of crap, but they would think, oh, he doesn't really like Scritti Politti. But I've got 12-inch singles off here. I've got the 12-inch for Wood.
Oh, yeah.
I got the 12-inch for Perfect Way. I love the album after this, their second album, Provision, I think is excellent also. But this is the one to check out. And I'm glad it was on your honorable mention so I don't feel so foolish about it. But see, Logan likes it and he knows what's good. So don't just take my word for it.
Yeah, man. Every once in a while, I just do a purge of like kind of cheap in records because they're maybe not in good condition or whatever. But yeah, I had like the original embossed jacket, gold stamp promo. Like there was no reason for me to get rid of it. And I just did at some point. And I pulled it up on Spotify a couple months ago. I was like, damn it. Like I want to hear this on the stereo again.
Why did I do that? Yeah.
Okay. Number 7, this is another pretty recent love of mine. A lot of these records have been in my life for very long. Some of them not so much. This is a very new one for me. And yeah, this is one that took me a minute to actually find, just going through like, one hit wonder